America is standing at a moment in history unlike anything we've seen before. Political division is deeper than ever. Trust in government is collapsing, and every new headline seems to push the nation towards some kind of breaking point. Millions of Christians across the world are asking the same question. Are the events happening in the United States today a fulfillment of the prophecies God revealed through Scripture and confirmed through the writings of Ellen G. White? For more than a century, Seventh-day Adventists have believed that America plays a central role in the final scenes of Earth's history. But it is only in recent years that many have begun to see how quickly prophecy can shift from theory to reality. Before we go deeper, if this message speaks to you so far, you may want to subscribe so you don't miss the next prophecy study. Now let's continue. In her most well-known prophetic book, Ellen White wrote that final events will be rapid ones. She described a time when America, a nation founded on the principle of religious liberty, would gradually change its character. She said that this transformation would take place in moments of national crisis, moments when fear, anger, and instability would make the country vulnerable to pressures that would have seemed impossible in previous generations. Today, many people believe we are witnessing exactly that. Let's begin with the political landscape. In the past decade, American politics has moved through unprecedented turbulence. Public trust in leaders has declined, tensions between parties have reached boiling levels, and the very identity of the nation seems to be pulled in two directions at once. Donald Trump's presidency marked a level of social upheaval that the nation had not seen in modern history. Whether someone supports him or opposes him, the truth is that his leadership reshaped American politics in ways that will be felt for generations. His policies triggered intense national debate on immigration, law enforcement, religious freedom, and national identity, topics that directly intersect with prophecy. Then came the Biden administration, which introduced its own political tensions and ideological shifts. Cultural battles over morality, gender identity, education, and religious expression grew more intense. America was no longer debating economics or foreign policy. It was debating the moral foundation of society itself. And as Ellen White warned, when morality becomes a battlefield, prophecy is not far behind. The Bible predicts that the final crisis will involve laws that unite church and state. And Ellen White specifically identified America as the nation that would lead this movement. She described a time when religious and political powers would come together, influencing law in ways that would restrict freedom of conscience. In her book, The Great Controversy, she wrote that the United States would eventually speak like a dragon, meaning the nation's laws would take on a spirit of oppression rather than liberty. For decades, these ideas sounded extreme, but today even secular observers are noticing that America is inching toward authoritarian tendencies. Let's look at the current climate. The US Supreme Court has become one of the most influential forces in shaping national direction. Major rulings on religious expression, abortion policies, LGBTQ issues, and federal authority have triggered celebrations on one side and outrage on the other. Every decision fuels a fire that is already burning in American society. The court is no longer seen as a neutral institution, but as a battleground for moral control. This is exactly the type of polarization prophecy warns about. Ellen White described a moment when the United States would face crises, social, economic, and moral, that would push leaders to adopt drastic solutions. She wrote that in a time of disaster, political leaders and religious groups would unite to enforce laws that appear to restore national morality. She said, when the leading churches of the United States, uniting upon such points of doctrine as are held by them in common, shall influence the state to enforce their decrees, then Protestant America will have formed an image to the Roman power. This is a direct statement that America's role in prophecy is connected to religious law. Now let's look at recent history through that lens. During Trump's presidency, there was a dramatic rise in religious political activism. Many Christian leaders publicly declared that America needed to return to God, not simply through preaching or evangelism, but through legislation. Large religious movements began pushing for Christian nationalism, arguing that America must reshape its laws around a biblical framework. While many saw this as a positive return to morality, others recognized the prophetic implications. Ellen White warned that the push for religious legislation would begin with sincere intentions, an effort to restore morality in a collapsing world, but would ultimately lead to oppression. After the 2020 election, national tensions reached levels unseen in modern times. The events of January 6th shocked the world. It revealed something that many had failed to see, that America is willing to resort to extreme measures when political passion and religious conviction merge. Ellen White said that the final movements would come when people demand the government enforce laws for the good of society. And today, many political groups believe that the only way to save America is through religious control of national law. Meanwhile, under the Biden administration, we saw a different type of push, attempts to increase federal power, enforce ideological positions, and promote moral and social frameworks that many Christians believe contradict Scripture. This created a new fear among conservative and religious groups, leading to even stronger demands for religious involvement in politics. Whenever one administration pushes left, the next pushes right, and the cycle grows more intense. This is not coincidence. This is prophecy unfolding. America is tearing apart ideologically. Both sides believe the country is in moral crisis. Both sides believe the nation is collapsing. And both sides believe the government must intervene to fix it. This is exactly the type of environment that produces laws that restrict religious freedom. Not suddenly, not violently, but step by step. Ellen White wrote that Protestantism shall stretch her hand across the gulf to grasp the hand of the Roman power, symbolizing an alliance between American churches and political powers that would shape national law. When you look at recent political rallies where religious leaders stand beside politicians, declaring that government must enforce Christian values, you can see how easily this prophecy could unfold. This is not about one political party, it's about a national movement. Let's consider something else: the rise in natural disasters, heat waves, storms, and global instability. Scientists keep repeating that the climate is reaching dangerous levels. Cities are flooding. Fires are increasing. Hurricanes are stronger. And many Americans believe these crises are judgments from God. Ellen White predicted that when disasters increase, religious leaders will say that the nation must return to God through enforced religious observances. This moment will open the door for Sunday laws in the name of restoring divine favour. She wrote that calamities would be used as evidence that God is punishing the world for rejecting his commandments. Today we see this idea everywhere. When hurricanes strike, when fires destroy homes, when floods devastate cities, religious voices immediately claim that America must return to God. And political leaders are listening. This is how prophecy unfolds, not through dramatic announcements, but through subtle, consistent shifts in public opinion. If this study is making things clearer for you, you can take a moment to subscribe so you won't miss the next video in this series. Now, let's continue deeper. One of the strongest signs of prophetic fulfillment is the decline of religious liberty. In the past few years, American courts and political groups have questioned the boundaries of religious freedom. Some argue that it is too broad. Others argue that it is too narrow. Every year, new legal battles reshape what churches, schools, and individuals are allowed to do or say. And Ellen White warned that religious liberty would be eroded through legislation that claims to protect society or public health. During the COVID-19 pandemic, America witnessed something prophetic. Churches were restricted, gatherings were limited, and the government took unprecedented control over daily life. This was not the final crisis, but it was a preview. It showed how quickly freedoms can disappear when national emergency arises. Ellen White said that in times of crisis, the people will pressure lawmakers to enforce religious unity. COVID showed us how fast fear can change laws. Now combine this with political division, religious activism, and natural disasters. You have the perfect environment for prophecy to unfold. America is a nation searching for stability. And whenever a nation is desperate for stability, it will trade freedom for control. Prophecy says that in the last days, control will come through religious legislation. Look at the recent statements by Trump. He has repeatedly promised to restore Christian values in America if he returns to office. He has spoken publicly about using presidential power to shape national morality. Many Christians love this. Many fear it. But regardless of opinions, the prophetic question is this: could a leader, combined with religious groups, create the conditions for laws that mirror the prophecies of Revelation 13 and the writings of Ellen White? It is absolutely possible. Now look at Biden. His administration has promoted social policies that many Christians see as opposing biblical teaching. This has caused a backlash, making conservative groups demand stronger religious influence in government. Again, prophecy moves through tension, not through victory. When one side pushes too far, the other side pushes harder. And while America fights internally, the world is watching. Nations like China, Russia, and Iran are challenging American power. Global instability is rising. An unstable world always leads people to search for a unifying solution. According to prophecy, that solution will come through religious authority. All of this brings us to a critical question. Are we living in the early stages of the final crisis predicted in Revelation 13? Based on current events, many signs point to yes. Not because of fear, not because of hype, but because the movements happening right now match the pattern described in Scripture and confirmed through the spirit of prophecy. Ellen White wrote that the final movements will be rapid ones, and today we see how quickly things can change. One ruling, one election, one national disaster, one major crisis, and the entire direction of the country can shift overnight. This is not a message of fear. It is a message of awareness. It is a call to spiritual preparation. Prophecy is not given so we can panic. Prophecy is given so we can be anchored in truth when the world shakes. So what should we do as believers living at the edge of eternity? First, we must stay rooted in Scripture. The louder the world becomes, the more clearly we must hear God's voice. Second, we must avoid the political extremes that tear the nation apart. Prophecy teaches that salvation does not come from the left or the right. It comes from Christ alone. Third, we must strengthen our relationship with God daily. The crisis ahead is spiritual, not political. Finally, we must share the truth with love. The world is afraid. People are confused. And now more than ever, the message of hope and truth must shine. America is moving quickly into the prophetic role God revealed long ago. This is not the end, but it is the beginning of the final chapter. Now is the time to awaken. Now is the time to prepare. And now is the time to stand firmly on the side of truth. If this study opened your eyes to the prophetic significance of what is happening in America today, you can subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Share this with someone who needs clarity and courage for the days ahead. And remember, no matter what happens in the nations, God remains in control. Prophecy is unfolding, not to frighten us, but to remind us that Jesus is near and his coming is sure.